Good evening, guys. How's it going? This is Will with another drawing time video. And for my Inktober, we're on day 26. We're almost finished with it. We've almost completed the task at hand. And for me, I feel like that's part of the big deal for this. It's not so much about just drawing the pictures, it's about the fact that I started something and I wanted to be able to finish it. So I thought that's really awesome. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that this is Miss Riri Williams. If you read the description, it's a little bit interesting and a little bit different. Um, Riri was a character that was started in the Marvel Now world where basically they kind of rebooted everybody. There was a point where Tony Stark went from being the superior um, Iron Man to being missing for a while. And so there was a period of time when that happened where they were trying to figure out what to do with him as a character since he wasn't going to be there for a while as a character for them to use. So they decided, well, we'll create our own new Iron person. So they did. So they created Riri Williams. Now, Riri Williams, his story is very interesting in a lot of ways. They introduced her in a few backstories initially of the Iron Man comic before Tony disappeared, the Superior Iron Man story. And then eventually, when they started doing the International Iron Man, where they found out he was missing, they ended up using her to kind of begin that process. So here's a story about a super intelligent, and when I say super, they literally refer to the comic as super intelligent or ultra intelligent. They basically said she would probably be somewhere on the spectrum to be as intelligent as, say, a Reed Richards or Tony himself. And so, but of course, one of the things that one of her teachers said basically was that they needed to, her parents needed to challenge her, and they needed to, let her know that she could do anything she put her mind to, but that she would have to work for it. And the reason, it's funny because they were in a parent teacher conference and they were talking about her kind of acting out. And the reason she was acting out was literally because she was bored. Now I know other parents have probably heard that. Some teachers have probably seen that and different things like that. So Riri is an interesting case in that regard because she literally fills kind of that role. Well, then flash forward several years. One of the things about her that they talked about was the fact that she can, people can be so smart sometimes if they're not careful, they can walk away from people. They can pretty much get to the point where they don't feel like people are as important, so they don't socialize much because they get kind of dissatisfied with the way people are because they feel they don't tolerate. And they literally said this line. They said they don't tolerate people and their inability to be as smart as they are. And so I found it interesting because I've dealt with that in different ways in my own life. We won't get into that, but that's beside the point. So anyway, so Riri is basically she meets a friend, she meets a neighbor, and she's in the like her mom is trying to bait her just to go to the park for 10 minutes a day. Like Riri is literally like trying to invent stuff. So the first time her friend, whose name I don't remember, but her friend meets up with her, she's in her garage building something for Spider Man. She basically comes up with this whole idea. Says, I could build this thing for Spider Man. Spider Man will have this thing, and he can go off, and I don't know how she realized that Spider Man and Peter Parker were the same person, but she literally breaks down that, well, Peter Parker can go do his own thing, and this hologram robot thing can take over for him, and he can continue to be Spider Man so that people don't realize that Spider Man and Peter Parker are the same person. And so her and this girl become a friend as a result of that. Well, time goes on, years go by, they're at a picnic at a park. And when they go to this picnic, they end up a drive-by shooting occurs. When a drive-by shooting happens, Riri's friend gets shot. So Riri's friend gets shot. Riri basically decides she's gonna do exactly what she always set out to do. She's gonna go off and build things. She's gonna go off and, she tried being cool. She tried going out. She tried hanging out with people, and her friend ended up getting killed. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe her father got hit with a bullet as well. So I believe her father passed away as well. So of course, her mom's trying to continue to be there for her and nurture her, and it's not really working out that great. But anyway, time goes on. She basically goes to like I'm not sure if she went to MIT or an MIT like school, but she ends up going to the school and she ends up finding stolen parts and she builds her own Iron Man armor. And so when she builds her own Iron Man armor, of course, people are kind of like, I can't believe she did this. They basically tell her they're going to threaten to kick her out of school. So she's like, okay. And she basically takes her Iron Man suit that she built out of stolen parts and flies away. And so over time, the big problem is, she's trying to, of course, go out and do things. She's trying to save people's lives because she remembers that day. She's driven by that day that her friend and her dad got shot, and she begins to understand that in order for her to save other people's lives, she has to be ready to deal with situations that other people are going through. And so she starts trying to plan out. She starts trying to, learn what superheroing looks like. And so she goes out and she fights this girl whose ability is she projects monsters. But then the thing about it is she doesn't just project the monsters, she can make the monsters become living embodiments. And so pretty much Riri kind of starts to figure out how to play the game as far as being a superhero. But the problem is she doesn't have an AI. She doesn't have any artificial intelligence. And so she's literally trying to use her systems in her very limited, very wonky Iron Man-like suit. And she goes on the internet searching for ways to deal with this villain. She ends up finding a way to deal with the villain and villainess. And then she goes off and she's kind of like, yeah, I saved the city, but I need help. I can't do this all by myself. I can't create a system. She doesn't have the ability to create a system to help her deal with these things. Well, lo and behold, right when Tony Stark goes missing, he basically sends her, to her home address, which means he knows where she lives, which means Tony's pretty aware of who she is. Of course, nobody realized for the longest time that she, they knew who she was, but Tony did. So anyway, Tony basically advises her that he's been watching her for a long time, knows who she is, and more importantly, he not only knows who she is, he knows what she can do. And so he wants to help her become all she can be. And so he basically puts himself into his own AI that he creates for her. And so literally they upload it to the suit. Next thing you know, they're training together. He's building, she basically ends up having to fight all of the different Iron Man armors that he has available to her. And so they basically come to her, they're fighting. And there's a real funny scene in one of the books where she's going through this whole thing. She just figured out how to outsmart Tony Stark. And in this training simulation, and then she fires the repulsor beams, not realizing that she doesn't have quite control of the repulsor beams yet. So she fires the repulsor beam, just goes flying backwards into the city, and so she doesn't, of course, know how to control that. But anyway, so time goes on. She ends up meeting up with Pepper Potts, who up until this point had been missing for a while in the books, because of course after the whole Tony thing where Tony kind of went evil during Superior Iron Man, Pepper didn't trust her. Pepper said, I will help you run this organization, but I will do it on my own. I don't need you to do that. And so basically she just decided she didn't need Tony to do it, and she kind of walked off and did her own thing. And for a long time she was gone, but then in this particular situation she meets Pepper, Pepper meets Riri rather. And there's a villain that they created during the course of this arc who basically can grab technology and then she can use it herself and she can manipulate the technology and all that stuff. And so that was where they ended up going with this. This character shows up and basically rips Pepper Potts' armor off of her and also rips Riri's armor off of her. And the interesting thing about this is before that all happens, the way she actually defeats Tony in this training simulation is that she downloads a virus into the suits. So she, because Tony's fussing at about running away, it's like, if you want to be a hero, you can't just run away from battles. Sometimes you've got to face the situation as they come to you. And she's like, you're right, you do. But I'm not strong enough to face 25 of your suits by myself. I don't need to be, though, because what I've just done is uploaded a virus to your suit so that all your suits would go out. And about that time, sure enough, all the suits fell to the sea. And of course, he was like, well, I paid billions for those suits. He said, yep, you wasted your money. And then she did the whole repulsory thing, and it was all kind of its own joke. Because even though she thought she had tricked Tony Stark, she didn't understand that she was really the one tricking herself. So Funny thing about it too was that during the course of this, one of the most interesting things about this storyline is you find out that her dad taught her how to sword fight. So there's a point in the book where she's fighting this girl who's able to take technology, and the girl looks at her and says, "Have you ever fought with a sword before?" It's like, "Well, of course I have." And then they show this whole scene where dad is literally teaching her how to fence. So not only can she hold her own in a battle of armor, she can also hold her own in a land of fencing. So I thought that was really cool because I've always appreciated fencing. I've always appreciated people like Christopher Lee and different people like that who could go in and do fencing and all that different stuff. I thought that was really neat because fencing is one of those cool arts I love to see done, and I also, more importantly, love to see it done well. So when I get the chance to see people do it, it's really cool. And when you have a comic book character who has the ability to do it, it's even more awesome. So, gotta finish up. I gotta hit the accents and the eyes. And there we go. All right. So there's Miss Riri Williams in her Ironheart suit. Her name, by the way, is Ironheart. Now the suit that I drew was the second suit she has worn. Her first suit she built at MIT. I didn't want to draw that one because it was a bit clunkier and very big, and you really couldn't see her in the suit because it was very old suit style. But this one was the suit that she got the upgrade from Tony, and now apparently she's got a new suit beyond this one that you've seen. So anyway, guys, this is day 26. This is Riri Williams. I am going to be uploading my 27 today's video shortly after this. And it's going to be a little bit different than what I had said I would do. So I hope you guys enjoy it. But anyway, above all else, guys, do me one favor. If you like what I'm doing, like, comment, subscribe. And that's two favors I'm going to ask. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that normal stuff. But above all else, guys, be blessed, be a blessing to somebody. Till next drawing, which hopefully will be in a few minutes. You guys take care.